Hi everyone, welcome to GMONJ's channel. In this video, we look at a model game in the Scotch Gambit. All the e4, e5 players, from Black's perspective, will come across a few Gambit lines such as Evans Gambit, Scotch Gambit, which are quite aggressive, and if Black is not ready with the correct plans and ideas, he can get into trouble in the early stage of the game. Let's get started with the Scotch Gambit. e4, e5, knight f3, knight 6, and d4, e takes d4, so far all natural moves. Here knight takes d4 is the main line of the Scotch opening, and if if white doesn't win the pawn back on d4 and plays bishop c4, this is called as the Scotch Gambit. And here, black has a couple of reasonable options. He can either start with knight f6 or bishop c5. I'm sure there are other options as well, but I'm talking about the main lines. Now, knight f6 is also probably the main line, but bishop c5, in my opinion, is slightly more safer. So let's get into this one. Now, white's options are short castle, c3. These are like the main lines in this position. c3 can transpose back into the Italian system, which we will discuss at some point in future videos. Now, apart from these moves, white has one more aggressive option to go out for the attack with knight g5. Now, according to my database, I see that this move was first played in 1818, almost like 200 years ago. Now, think about it this way. So, the theory has developed and evolved from this position for more than 200 years now. And black players who are playing e4, e5, and if you need a line against the Scotch Gambit, you're supposed to know this theory. You should know this game, what happened exactly, and how basically the lines evolved. You're supposed to know it. And that is how we can handle these lines effectively. So, to start with knight g5, and there is a direct attack on the f7 pawn, and there are a couple of ways to defend this. Knight e5 is a reasonable option, knight h6 is another option. But apparently knight e5 is what happened in that game when they played this in 1818, which was met with knight f7. And strangely at this point, the game ends with white winning this game. Okay, maybe the game was not complete or something. We are not sure about that, but this is where the game ends. But if you understand this position, it's easy to understand that the other line starting with knight h6, now we reach a similar position after knight f7, but it's just that instead of the knight on g8 in the previous position, we have the knight on c6, which is certainly a much better position for black. Now, so far the way the game has gone, it feels like white has been in control, and black's position seems to be, at least visually, it doesn't look very appealing. The king side is heavily damaged. The black's king is stuck in the middle. He's not able to castle the king. The king is weak and exposed. But the evaluation of this position is exactly the opposite. Apparently, black gains some counterplay in this position with precise play. Let's look at the follow-up. But this is why it's important to understand and know the theoretical lines, because, for example, if I'm playing in this position without any prior knowledge about this position, I don't know, maybe I'll feel pretty unsafe in this position when playing black, because it doesn't feel very comfortable for black. But if I know the correct path, if I know the correct plan, it becomes much more simpler. And apparently in this position, black's strongest move to continue is to go with d5. Now, white's best move in this position apparently is to go with short castle. There is a game that was played between Kovalev and Kramnik back in 2018, and their game continued with something like this. And here Kramnik continued with knight d4, but apparently queen d4 is what the engines prefer in this position, and according to the engines, it's like black seems more comfortable, and black might be even better in this position. But the game that we are going to see continues with the most natural move. It starts with e takes d5. I mean, it looks more logical and simple and straightforward. But here, black continues with a natural reaction, rook e8 check, attacking the white king. White king can move to either d1 or f1. In the game, white put his king on f1. Let's see what happens if he moves the king to d1. Apparently, after rook e5, and black seems to gain a lot of counterplay in this position, starting with queen h4, and the attack seems to be quite strong for black. And after king f1, here Adiban, who played in this game, came up with a fantastic response. b6. Now, the idea is pretty clear. If white wins the knight on c6, the simplest plan is bishop a6 followed by rook e1 checkmate. Okay, if you think about it, it feels like a simple trap. But the plans are quite deep in this position after b6. So the strongest move in this position to continue for white here is to go with queen c4. And here, there are a couple of options that black has. Adiban in this game continued with knight e5, which is quite strong. There is one more correspondence game in this position that continued with another excellent idea, where black played knight to a5. And it's important for the white queen to stay in this diagonal, because if bishop a6 happens and if the king has to move away, then rook e1 would end in a checkmate. So white continued with queen to b5. Here, black came up with an unbelievable move, but quite logical if you understand it, knight b3. Okay, so the point is, okay, immediately like the rook on a1, the bishop on c1 are under attack. But the idea is to vacate the a4 square for the pawn, so that black can get bishop to a6 in this position. And apparently white is at least losing his queen. So this becomes quite dangerous for the white side. There's another move that continued in this game with knight e5, which is also quite strong. Probably at this point it doesn't matter what black does. More or less the position is already out of control and should be losing for white. Now the game continued with queen d4, and Adiban, to his true to his style, continued with aggressive lines with knight f3 and queen f4, queen f6. And as we can see, still white is unable to win the knight because of this simple trap, which ends in a checkmate. And after queen f6, white continued with g4. I mean, at this point it feels like more or less white is only trying to survive. But anyways, the attack is quite strong. Rook e1, king g2, knight h4, check. And it doesn't matter king g3 or king h3. Okay, rook into h1. Now the damage is more or less done. Okay, anyways, like I think white should be more or less lost in this position, and the rest was just a few more moves. And now white ran out of checks, and before a couple of more moves, and yeah, just looks like a very clean mate. That's it. The game ends here without basically any fight from white side. Now, if you think about it, from the start, if we think about it logically, like after knight g5, it felt like white was the one who initiated all the complications, but as the game progresses, with precise play, black was able to really outplay white, especially like moves like b6 and the knight a5, knight b3 plan, or knight e5, knight f3 plan as played in this game. If you know these theoretical lines, I think you're definitely going to have a huge advantage when you're playing in a practical game. This is why it's important to study the openings. And moreover, this specific line, knight g5, knight h6 was played by Paul Murphy Anderson around like 1850s. Since that time, this position is known to be completely fine for black. So black players, if you're going to play e4, e5 and need a line against the Scotch Gambit, I'm sure this can be a very good option. If you're going to play bishop c5, you just have to be ready with c3 and short castle. c3 might transpose into the Italian again. And short castle is another way to go. I think black usually continues with d6 and achieves a pretty reasonable position. So I think with this Scotch Gambit, especially if white tries to be super aggressive, if you guys know this correct idea, I think pretty much you don't have to worry about anything. And you know what? Even without playing one move over the board, with your preparation alone, it's possible to achieve a winning position. Sometimes the game might even end there. So I think this gives us some clarity regarding the Scotch Gambit, and I hope you guys like this video, the ideas that we saw in this video. And if you think you need any other lines, any model games in any lines, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the other video then. Thank you.